Glad to have you back with us. Jeff Stier is on the line. He is a senior fellow at the National Center for Public Policy Research. He heads the Risk Analysis Division. Their website, nationalcenter.org, what I would characterize as a conservative think tank. Jeff, would you agree?
Well, we're going to agree at least once during this conversation.
Okay. So you seem to have, you seem to be upset that former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg, who's a billionaire, has given $1.5 million in the last couple of weeks to support a ballot measure in San Francisco and Oakland that would impose a 1-cent tax on sugary drinks. Why are you upset about this?
Well, my former mayor, Michael Bloomberg, is entitled to spend his private money that he earns in the private sector however he wants. However, he has been using his money to distort the truth about a soda tax. Now, I am not saying soda is a health food, and certainly people who are concerned about their weight should drink less of it, and any calories you consume are a problem if you're concerned about gaining weight and diabetes. I get all that. But what I'm concerned about is making public policy based on distorted or perhaps possibly purposefully distorted science. Let me give you an example of how Michael Bloomberg has been doing that. He's been funding studies on the effects of the soda tax in Mexico and other Latin American countries. And we know that financial incentives have consequences, right? I'm a free market guy. So I'm not saying that soda taxes don't change behavior, but the evidence that we're seeing so far out of Mexico is that obesity isn't going down, there's not less diabetes, people aren't getting healthier because of the soda tax. So what
we don't. I haven't seen a study that I thought was it all clean, but you and I mean we do know that taxes will change behavior. But I'm frankly not so concerned about that. What I'm concerned about is the fact that there is a bunch of very large companies in this country, several of them, whose principal business model is to sell a product that they know is going to cause adverse health outcomes to Americans. And then you talk about, well, what about public policy, or should this even be an issue of public policy? Well, part of our public policy is to provide health care to at least low-income Americans or Americans who are disabled, and that health care can be very, very expensive. And so we're subsidizing that industry whose business model is to create this kind of sickness.
I don't think we should be subsidizing them, but let me just close the loop.
My final point on why I don't think that the soda tax necessarily would be changing anything south of the border is that here we're using high fructose corn syrup, which personally I think is a much bigger villain in this morality play than is sugar, because of the way that it's metabolized in the liver. Whereas down south they typically use sugar. In fact, a lot of stores in the United States will sell Mexican Coke because it's made with sugar instead of high fructose corn syrup.
And people sometimes enjoy the taste of the real sugar. I'm not questioning that.
Right.
When it comes to the Mexico example, Mayor Bloomberg's the studies he's funded have made the following claim: it's working. People are drinking less soda.
Okay, great.
He's asking the wrong question. Are people getting healthier? Is there less diabetes, less obesity? But now let's move it to the U.S. In Berkeley, where there was a soda tax, a public health group that was pushing for the soda tax did a study, and that study claimed that the tax caused sugar consumption in Berkeley, California, to go down dramatically, and it even claimed, hard to believe, 63% increase.
Jeff, are you suggesting that when we raised the tax on tobacco, on cigarettes, that smoking didn't go down?
No, I'm suggesting that the study that was done in Berkeley.
Well, hang on just a second. If we can just
talk about
the question behind my question is, if you acknowledge that raising the tax on tobacco caused smoking to go down, could it be that we just simply haven't raised the tax on soft drinks enough?
What I am going to speak is within the science that I have seen. And the study out of Berkeley with regard to the soda tax was a poorly done study that has been trumpeted by advocates in favor of the soda tax.
Well, that's fine. Let's discard the study. Let's set all that stuff aside and just have a straight-up conversation.
Tom,
how do we capture the externalities of companies whose business model is to make a profit off us getting sick?
I will address that. Allow me first, because you say let's discard the study. unless the New York Times and the Los Angeles Times agree with you on that, I actually need to debunk the study because that study has been used in the major media, including by major influencers such as Dr. Marion Nessel from NYU.
I'm not saying discard the study. I'm saying from our conversation right now, I want to have a conversation with you about this concept, about this public policy.
I want to explain to you that these issues get distorted when we discard the weaknesses of the study.
Well, then let's give the weaknesses of the study a given and continue the conversation.
Well,
if we know that if we give a tax deduction on mortgages, we get more people buying homes.
Thom, it's actually worse than that, and this is a critical point that I hope you can allow me to make, and that is that the advocates of more soda taxes use science when it advances their ideology, and then when there's a study that disputes their approach, they become very good at criticizing that science. They are able to say, oh, this was this type of study. This study, for instance, the Berkeley study, which I'm glad you agree with me for the purpose of this conversation, was useless, that study gave away bottles of water to people to get them to answer
All I
questions.
agree is that I haven't read the study, so I can't debate it with you.
If that study, Thom, let me just tell you, and you could follow me on Twitter at Jeff A, middle initial A, Stier, S-T-I-E-R. I'll tweet about it. I'll tweet my article about it.
Okay.
But you can see that in that study, everything about it was poorly executed. But when the leading voices in favor of soda taxes, when they criticize studies that
Jeff, we're relitigating tobacco here. I mean, doesn't it make common sense that when people start consuming a large quantity of their fluids in association with sweets, particularly sweets that have that produce things like fatty liver disease and obesity,
we're not
hyperphosphatemia.
relitigating anything.
No, you're doing the same. You're doing the same thing the tobacco companies did, the same thing the asbestos companies did, the same thing the oil companies are trying to do right now, which is cast doubt on the science rather than addressing the issue.
Actually, Thom, the irony is that you are doing that by distorting the science. I think we come out better as a country with better policies when we argue based on good science and discuss science and evaluate it based on the actual science. And we are not.
I would love to see some of those kind of conversations, particularly when it comes to global warming, which is a whole.
I would like to have those conversations.
Whole separate issue.
I would love to have those conversations without being interrupted by ideology.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, I'm an ideological guy. Jeff Stier, senior fellow at the National Center for Public Policy Research.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
NationalCenter.org is the website. You can tweet him at Jeff A. Stier, S-T-I-E-R.